Let's see. Let me go on to this site. Let's see what's happening here. Two people waiting. We got two people
live.
We're live.
We're live.
Hey.
We're live. Good evening, gents.
Hello.
Good evening.
How are we doing, guys?
Doing good.
How are we?
We are good. We are good.
Yeah, I see you guys are very festive this evening.
Well, we're in the islands.
That's right. We're on the islands.
Very nice. Very nice. I'm on an island.
It's a rum night.
I'm near the island.
You ought to be on an island.
Solo. I'm
Solo. Gilligan.
Dr. Moreau. The island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, and I got beach scene in the background.
Very tropical.
I got some beach. Yeah, so it's all good. So are we ready to taste a little rum?
We are. We are.
All right, so we've got Black Tot Rum, and let me share the web page here. Give me a second, and so we got some Black Tot Rum. It's from the fine folks at Elixir Distillers. We got this. You got the sample from Elijah?
I did.
The Impex guy from the West Coast.
Yep, I did.
And,
Sam.
And Mr. Filmus was kind enough to send us samples. So Mike has his. I have mine. We have our little itty bitty bottles. And let's
all ready to go.
Now you've tried this before, right, Aaron?
I did. I was at a Elixir tasting for the their new line of whiskeys. What was that? A couple weeks ago. They're called
the Single Malts of Scotland.
Yeah, that was it. Yep. And then we did the rum last.
Okay. All right. So this stuff here, Black Tot combines the elegant, rich flavors from Barbados and Guyana with the bold character of Jamaica. This multi-layered rum is unsweetened, unchill filtered, and bottled at 46.2% for extra flavor.
0.2.
0.2.
Puts it over the top.
0.2. Not quite a 5 in this rum.
Nope.
Okay, we'll get close. We're getting close. So are you a rum guy, Aaron?
I am. I have to admit.
Satellite engineer is.
I do like rum, and I've got a couple here because we talked about maybe how to nose this one versus some of the component country rums that this one has. And
I'm gonna open this up while we're talking.
Oh, good idea. We all gonna do that?
Yeah, we may as well. Now you've had
crack the seal
Jamaican stuff, right?
Sorry?
You've had some of the funky Jamaican stuff, am I right?
I have one behind me. I have a Hamden's behind me, and I've got Plessers, which is from Guyana, which is the source kind of whiskey. And I've got a Foursquare, which is from Barbados.
Okay.
So, they all have their own unique qualities, right?
Yeah.
So every country does it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaicans are noted for their funkiness.
Yep, that's what it says here. Heavier in style, pot still Jamaican rum utilizes longer fermentation times and proprietary yeasts to create its distinctively big, funky flavors.
I would think that the sugar canes. I would think that the sugar canes growing in different places changes things, and the yeast they use changes things. So,
yep.
It's kind of neat to see how they blend it together.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I think you got slightly different processes in each distillery, each country. Maybe different sugar cane is a factor, different molasses might be a factor, but definitely the fermentation's got to be a factor.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So just so anyone watching, well, just to know, we're going to taste it. We're going to give this a try, and then we're going to have Mitch Wilson, the Black Tot global brand ambassador, join us and tell us a bit more about it, what goes into the making, and all the good stuff that goes behind the Black Tot.
So I poured off a little bit of the Guyana, the Barbados, and the Jamaican rums that I had, just to see what the difference was. And again, not that I know a lot about rum, but you can really tell one's more toffee, one's more fruity, one's more funky, and you can kind of see what the differences are, which
I agree.
It's really kind of neat.
Yep.
I just poured some El Dorado, and you smell that, and you get a little like a bitter note out of it. Maybe a little bit of chocolate. And when you go to the Barbados rums, you get a lot of like toffee, butterscotch, a lot of sweet.
I just opened up a Foursquare. I definitely get the butterscotch.
And then you go to the Jamaicans, and it's just totally different. You don't get either of those notes with the Jamaican rum.
No, I've got this Hamden. It's an overproof one, but Oh, it's like
You get a lot of funk.
whole lot of funk,
Yeah.
petrol, gasoline.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
a
you're
lot of
getting that from the
oiliness
overproof too.
and
yeah.
overproof, but you're really getting that oily, burnt thing going on.
And then when you smell the Black Tot, it's a little bit of all of
A
that.
little bit of everything.
Got to pick up a little bit of everything.
Well, that's the whole point of blending, right?
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
But it maintains
It's
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
The whole is greater
Like
than some
one
of the
oak
parts.
waste together.
Well, I think this is interesting because I really get the funk on this.
Which the
The Black Tot.
Black Tot?
Yeah.
It'd be
I
interesting
really-
to see how much of the Jamaican rum goes into this.
I think it's kind of small, as I recall.
Yeah.
It's actually a small number, but it seems like it's a
Hey.
very forward to me.
Hey, Aaron.
Yo.
The what's it called? The Appleton Jamaican rum. That's not known for being funky, though, is it?
I don't think it is because it's
No,
used
I
in
don't think
a lot
so
of
either.
cocktails, and I don't think it's very.
It's more the Hampton or
Hamden's is very.
is it Hampton? Okay.
Yeah, Hamden. Yeah, these guys, Hampton.
I got you.
Our buddy Lee Zero loves that
Yeah.
Hamden Worthy Park stuff.
So what are you picking up on the nose of this?
I get a lot of the funk. I get like burnt bananas and
Like a bananas Foster in a glass.
a little bit of rubberiness. Burnt
You get
rubber.
a little like caramelized, the burnt sugars. A little
Yeah.
bit of that.
Definitely a burned something.
Yeah, there's a good bit of tropical notes. There's a little bit of pineapple. Maybe like
Yep.
a overripe pineapple.
Yep.
And maybe a little bit of apples and a little toffee.
Yeah.
It smells great.
Well, it does.
Okay.
I like the color.
Hey, that's a nice color.
Say
No.
it, Ange. Say it, Ange.
Amber?
Say it.
You know,
It's Amber.
out on the dance floor.
He's on the main stage. There you go. This is the booze that dances, just so you know. That's the only dancing that's going to happen around here.
Yeah. With our 2 left feet, or 6 of them.
Yeah, it smells good on the nose. I like the way it smells. I'm not, I like rum. We've had some very good rums. We've had a couple of lost spirits together. And what else have we had? Mike and I have done about 4 or 5 different Papas Pilar.
The Diplomatico, the Papas Pilar, we did those.
We've had those. We've had the what's the one from Dominican Republic? The Brugal.
The Brugal. Yeah, that's good.
Just give me a sample of that one.
But they're all very different because the Brugal
Yeah.
was more, from what I don't know. Again, I don't know a whole lot about rum. From what they've said, the style that were Spanish colonies like Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, they do a different style from the ones that were French and British colonies.
Right.
They're much.
The whole Caribbean is just different. It feels a little bit like outlaw world, right? Because every country's doing it their own way. Every distillery does it their own way, and so you're getting all these different flavors and notes from different distilleries, different countries.
All right, I'm going to go in for a taste because we don't want to leave Mitch waiting too long.
No, we don't.
I mean, it's he's in London, and it's
3 a.m.
3 a.m. GMT.
That 46% comes through. That's nice.
Got some heat.
Way more than 46.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's not bad.
Now you said you've had some overproofed. Do they have more heat than this? I mean, is it
Oh
really?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yep. But this is pretty hot.
Yeah.
This feels like a 5.
Didn't we have a Jamaican style?
Get round up.
Didn't we do a Jamaican style from Lost Spirits?
They have one. They've got
I
a
think
they've got a navy proof. There's one that they've got that's 65%, and
Right.
he's got a 151 also.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's jet fuel. Wow, it's interesting. It coats the mouth. Long finish.
And you
It's
kind of
not
get
a very heavy
all those
body.
flavors.
Yeah,
You really do. You get like the burnt sugars, you get a little rubber, you get some bananas, you get some apple, you get a little bit of everything. Maybe a little pineapple.
It's not very thick.
nope. It's a little thin.
It's got a very light mouthfeel.
I think if it was, I'm guessing. I don't remember this when Mitch told us last time what the components were percentage-wise. I don't think it's evenly divided. I think if it was more Jamaican, it would be heavier, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing this is less Jamaican than the other components.
But then, while it brought the funk, maybe there'd be too much funk in this.
Maybe, and maybe not as palatable. And,
right.
I'm guessing this is probably designed for the mass market, maybe a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's reasonably priced as well.
Now this is like the first release, right? And I think they're going to expand.
Right.
I guess we're going to find that out in a bit. No, let Mitch tell us.
We could.
Get the scoop.
So I think this is a good rum for cocktails too.
Yes.
Right?
Lighter cocktails. I mean, this would be a nice dark and stormy, perhaps.
Sure.
It's a little on the lighter side.
You can see this in a Mai Tai.
You're always a big fan of your ginger beer, right?
How about a daiquiri?
Sure.
Make a nice daiquiri. I'm going to.
No, hey. So I was watching the Ardbeg Day festivities today online, and they did a cocktail. They did a daiquiri with Ardbeg 10, and you easily could substitute this. Well, because usually you have rum instead of Islay Scotch.
Right.
This would definitely work in that.
Nice. So here you go. Before we bring Mitch in.
This is a good sipper.
What?
It's a good sipper.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very nice one. It's nice.
Very pleasant.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's very palatable. There's nothing really about it.
Well, and I think
from the middle to the front.
Yep.
And you get a little bit of maybe some spices.
A little bit.
Maybe a little clove.
I think the palatability, it makes it, in that egalitarian rum family where it's not going to polarize people.
Mm-hmm.
If it had too much of the funk, I think then people are going, I don't want that.
Yeah.
See, what this does too, though, to me, it makes me more curious to try the other stuff.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Now I'm really curious to try a Hampton rum.
Sure.
Or, whatever else. What was the one we had with Ross? The Rum Runner?
Rum Runner, that was from Trinidad? Was that Trinidad?
I don't remember. That was pretty good, though.
That was really good.
What was that?
Oh, no, that was from Belize, I think.
You better believe it.
You better believe it.
At least there wasn't an accent.
So this is very nice. This is like you said.
Not now.
This is almost like the gateway to funk.
Yeah. Yeah.
It brings you in. It gets you curious.
It's the George Clinton of rums.
Is it? Well, no, because it's not quite bringing the funk. George Clinton's very funky.
He is very funky.
So this is more like a light funk. I think this is like the gateway.
George Clinton Jr.
George Clinton Jr. So it's not P funk. It's like more like MNO funk.
Yeah, it's earlier in the alphabet on the funk side.
I got you.
Well, let's bring Mitch in.
All right, let's bring him in.
Yep.
Let's bring him in. All right. Hang on a second.
I'm going to pour more.
Mitch.
Because I can.
Hello.
Mitch.
How you doing?
Are you still awake?
I am, yeah. I've had
Doing
my little
good,
You never sleep.
Are you properly caffeinated?
Yeah, no, I'm ready to go. 3 a.m. is the preferred drinking time.
Excellent. See, they say nothing good happens after 2 a.m.
Apparently everything
3
good
a.m.
happens after.
Little rum, little fish and chips. Little fish and chips run.
Mm-hmm. That's all we eat here. It's a very, very strict diet.
It's your late night meal. Or early morning meal.
How are you guys?
We're good. We're good.
Very good. We're better now that we had a couple drinks.
Yes.
We've tasted it and we like it.
We like
now
it.
we need to know more about it.
Yes.
Good start. Okay, wonderful. So, I heard you talking a little bit about the different rum regions and different rules before I came on here, and I think that's probably a kind of a really good place to start, aside from the talking about the brand itself. And I think the rum world especially is fraught with misinformation and lack of information as a whole, you know, compared to, say, the whiskey world, which is so well documented and there's so many trainings and so many experts out there. The rum world tends to sort of be diluted a little bit with some of its information, and that's a big part of what we're hoping to do with Black Tot, is to get more and more information out there to people, and especially with the individual islands and the blends. So you know, just as you know, I'm sure any whiskey lover out there who's following you guys on the show is going to be able to, you know, break down different distilleries in different areas, or, you know, at the very least would be able to say, you know, oh, these are the differences between Scotch, Irish and American whiskey, say. You'd be like, of course, how ridiculous. Like, at the very least, to be able to say that. You'd probably be able to say the difference between Highlands malt, Lowlands malt, Speyside malt, Isla malt, how many ppm in the malt. And then it gets to the Caribbean and it's like, well, what's the difference between Barbados and Jamaica? You see the fear in their eyes, you know. I don't know. And like I think, Gilo, you mentioned it's like the Wild West of the spirits world. It's like, because they all do things differently. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, Scotch and bourbon do things differently too, but we don't call it the Wild West because it's like we know those differences so inherently that it's very well laid
rules
out.
are well known. And
so yeah, like when you talk about these different island styles and Barbados versus Jamaica, like, absolutely there are complete differences in the way they make their rum, their fermentation times, what kind of stills they're using. And it's going to create completely different flavors in that rum. And then when we get into places like Jamaica, you can see, you know, you said, oh, Appleton isn't too funky. And that's completely right. Like, Appleton is as successful as it is because they made a very clean, very approachable Jamaican rum, whereas rums like Hampton or Long Pond use much funkier, heavier rums, which now the rum lovers are getting into. You know, it's almost like when peated whiskey suddenly became that thing. It's like, oh,
Very much so, yep.
I want it as smoky as possible. Like, if I don't have lung cancer when I drink it, it's not you know. And the rum world's kind of the same now. It's like, oh, unless I'm crying when I drink this, it's not funky enough, you know. So it's
Lee Zero.
Yeah. But there's so much to get into, so much to sort of unpick in the rum world and to uncover, because, you know, unfortunately, as a whole, we've been terrible at educating people about rum, you know, for years. And even today, you'll read stuff about rum and it's like, oh, it's white, gold and dark. What a shit way to describe spirit, you know. It's
very
like,
simple.
Imagine going, what kind of whiskies do you like? Oh, I just drink brown whiskies. Okay, cool. Like, great, I'll follow your blog, you know. But the rum world, that's what we did for years, you know. It was, you know, white, gold and dark, or English, Spanish and French. You know, that would be the whiskey equivalent of saying I just drink European whiskey. You know, it's like, well, which one? You know, like, to a whiskey lover, it'd be insane, and to a rum lover, it's very similar. So, you know, part of our mission, obviously, you've got the Black Tot today. So this is a Barbados Guyana Jamaica blend, and when we were actually able to come over there and do some real life masterclass with everyone, what we're going to do is bring the individual components, so you can try all of the rums that come into the rum. You can try the individual ingredients, see the difference between Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and then see how they all come together in the rum.
And deconstruction.
Absolutely, yeah. It's important, you know. It's like one. It's interesting, I think, because, you know, a lot of blends out in the world. I'm guessing the whiskey world would be the same, right? It's like, you know, oh, it's this secret blend, it's this secret recipe of, you know, all these people can't tell you what's in there. It's like, do you not know? Like, you know, you must know. So, you know, you must know exactly. Oh, it's a trade secret. You know, you might copy us. Like, well, okay. But yeah, we think it's more interesting to actually show you what's in the rum and show you how it's coming apart. So I can give you a little breakdown here if you like of what this rum blend is. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah, Sam.
Both Sams. Two Sams.
Sams. Sam I am and Sam he am and Sam they am and all that good stuff.
Can you see that screen? Is that popping up?
Yeah, let me add it. Hang on one second. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, so just to show you here, so this is kind of our breakdown of Black Tot. So I don't know any other rum brands that are doing this. Maybe there's a couple, but we want to give you the full blend composition here. So you've got 60% of the blend is Guyanese rum, 20% is unaged, the 40% is 3 to 5 year. So Guyanese rum is going to be your richer, chocolatey, sweeter notes coming through. Some of those coffee and licorice on the back end as well. Guyana is typically a very rich, full-bodied rum, and certainly traditionally would have been a big part of the rum blend. So it's felt important to keep it going here. Then you've got your Barbados rums. Fruits. You mentioned the pineapple coming through and different flavors like that. I always think of Barbados as like the pina colada of rums. It's tropical, it's fruity, it's easygoing, very well balanced. And there's a 5 year from Foursquare in there, which is a pot column blend. And then Aaron, I think you were saying the Jamaica was quite just a small part. You're right. So it's 5% of our overall blend, and that's a 3 year from Long Pond. And unlike the others, the Jamaica is 100% pot still as well. So it's a much bigger, funkier, fuller flavored rum. But as you say, too much and it would overpower the rest of it. So it's just a little touch in there. So you get some of that funk, but not, that's not the main message of this rum, I guess.
You definitely get it on the nose, as we talked about.
Yeah, as soon as it's like, boom, there it is.
And I'm guessing you didn't come up with this blend on the first try. So you probably had more of one versus another and then realized it didn't quite work as well as this does, right?
Absolutely. So
is the blending being done in England?
The blending is being done. That's a good question. So we it was being done previously in Amsterdam. So typically in Europe, how it works if you want to blend a rum, typically you have a few different methods. So if you've got a distillery, then obviously it's very easy. You make your own rum, you pull it over to wherever you want to pull it over, put it in a bottle, and that's good to go. If you don't have a distillery yourself, typically you'll go through a broker to get your rum. So in Europe and around the world, the biggest broker now is EA Shear. And typically you'll be able to buy different casks of rum or blends of rum through them. And typically, if you wanted to make a blend of rum, you could go to them and say, I want a rum that tastes like this and costs this much. And they'll say, here you go. This was a slightly different process because of our company, who we are, and our owner, Sukhinder Singh, is very passionate, obviously, about his whiskies and rums.
We like him.
He likes to have a lot of control over exactly what's going into the bottle. So when this idea first started, the idea for this rum started about 10 years ago. And then about 3-4 years ago, they started playing with some initial blends and initial ideas of what that was going to be. And so we went to Shear because that's, certain rums are much easier to get through Shear, and other rums you can only get through Shear. So, for example, if you want Foursquare rum, you have to buy it through places like Shear as well. They don't sell direct. So we went to them, got a couple of blends initially, and Sukhinder and I head blender Ollie Chilton were very much like, they're not quite what we want. Can we just come over? You show us all the ingredients, and we'll put this together. So in the end, they went over to Amsterdam, got shown sort of all the different tools they could play with for the rum, and over the course of about 2 years, did 26 different blends of this rum, putting it together. So because it's an interesting thing, like when you're blending, you're putting these flavors together, and you think, if I put this, and this together, this will do this. Most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time,
Sure.
It's like, okay, right.
Was it always rum from the same 3 countries, or just it was a whole variation?
My understanding from Ollie is that they started off with a very open concept. You know, there were certainly some rums they particularly wanted in there, like they wanted some Bajan rum in there, they wanted some Guyanese rum in there. But then you know, different rums. They played with a lot of different islands and a lot of different places. You know, a lot of Navy style rums will generally put Trinidad rum in there because Trinidad used to be a part of the Navy rum blend. Okay. But the Trinidad distillery that used to be part of a Navy rum blend doesn't exist anymore. And Trinidad rum today tastes very different to Trinidad rum back then. So some things made sense, some things didn't make sense, and they didn't want to necessarily be bound by what the Navy used to do in this one. You know, this was very much seen as a reboot of the Navy rum blend, if you like, and a sort of start, you know, like carte blanche to start again and make it what they wanted to make. So had a little bit more freedom in that respect and the kind of flavors they were playing with.
Have you had each of the three components separately?
Yes. So this is again what I'm very excited to bring over when we're allowed to come and travel again and see you guys in real life. We've got each of the individual 4 components now. So we'll be able to do you know, masterclasses and tastings with those, and you'll try each of them next to each other, next to the Black Tot Finest Caribbean as well. So you'll be able to really see individually what each part does. I think you asked where it was blended. So today we still blend it in Amsterdam currently, and then we get that shipped over to Scotland. Our warehouse is there, and we bottle it there. However, now that we've got these individual components, we're also experimenting with re-racking some of these, putting them into different casks, port casks, sherry casks, all different types of barrels, so that we've got, basically we're trying to broaden our tool base, our toolkit, if you like. So when we come to future blends, we'll have, you know, different finishes, slightly older rums, but with a bit of continental aging. Currently everything's aged tropically, which I'm not sure if this is a term that would be as familiar in the whiskey world, but in rum, you can basically age in the country of origin. So in a nice hot place where you've got huge angel share and the tannins are hitting the rum, and it's much more intense and almost aging, but sped up, but not really, because it affects it in a completely different way. Or you can bring it over to Europe, age it over here, and it's much cooler, it takes a lot longer, you know, and it's a much softer, smoother style that you'll often get out of it. But typically we tend to think tropical aging always is, you know, that's always the first preference, and then continental is a good way to slow it down and smooth it out to stop the wood taking over too much, especially with a lighter rum. So
is that a rule from, or lack of rule, or rule from the different countries that you can age anywhere in the Caribbean?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is a thing that we're trying to come into with the rum world. Is there's big debates at the moment as whether you have to be able to age in the country of origin, or if it's okay to age outside. And rum's an interesting one because a lot of places will drink unaged rum, or, you know, overproof unaged rum. Think of Ray and Nephew, things like that. So inherently there is no aging in the country of origin, but it's still very much their rum, and it still has all the characteristics of a funky Jamaican rum. So it is tricky. Historically, all the rums would be brought back to London for the Navy, say, and blended together there. And today, still in Amsterdam, you know, that happens throughout. So rum hasn't had that same provenance assurance, I guess, or GIs and AOCs with some of the countries. But today we're moving more towards that idea, and I think in time you probably will see more and more of the islands and the countries insist on aging in country of origin. Or at the very least, I think it's important to be able to say, you know, it's spent this many years in its country of origin, and then this many years aging in Scotland or Amsterdam or wherever it is. You know?
There was one question: why 46.2%? I guess the point.
Yeah, Sam. So 46.2. Basically that's where it tasted good. I think Ollie and Sekinda, who put this blend together, are very much whiskey drinkers first and foremost. They like bigger bodied, fuller flavors in the rum. They hate chill filtering anything. So being able to keep it at a level where they could not chill filter it, still leave all those flavors in, and just not water it down too much.
Did it start a lot higher as far as then it gets, and then proof down? Exactly.
Yeah. So it was done. And this rum was very much created as a more accessible black tot, because the one that we had for the last 10 years, the only one we had was this one, which is about $1,000 a bottle. It's
I'll take a dozen.
Sure.
Pocket change, But this was a bottling of the actual rum that the Navy used to have on the ships. So this is, this wasn't a recreation or wasn't something else. This was just actual flagons of Navy rum that they'd found and put in a bottle. So this was historically one of the most amazing rums that exists in the world. But whereas the Navy would have had that as like a daily shot and their everyday rum, a bit harder to do that when it's, it costs that much a bottle. It's more of a special occasion now. So the idea was, can we reboot the blend? Can we do something new and exciting with it? So the idea of the new guy, the Finest Caribbean, was to make something a bit more, as you say, cocktail friendly, something that could be sipped on its own, something that bartenders can use, but also if you're a whiskey drinker, you would love it. If you're a rum drinker, it would be something a bit bigger and fuller flavored as well for
rum. Particularly sweet though. I didn't find it overly sweet.
Yeah, so rum's an interesting one. I think there's and I know you guys know this, but for the benefit of anyone watching at home, I think there's a preconception that most rums are going to be really sweet most of the time, and that's because a lot of rum will have sugar added to it after the distillation. Okay, now when you distill, it doesn't matter what you're distilling from, whether it's from molasses or sugarcane juice, or if you're distilling from grain or potatoes or whatever it is, you're always going to have sugar in that wash initially, whatever your main. That's how fermentation works. That's how we get.
It has to be there. It doesn't work.
That's right.
But when you distill, that sugar can't come through the distillation process. No matter what you're distilling, sugar. It would be like trying to evaporate sand. Do you know what I mean? It would be the same. You put sand in a kettle, you evaporate. No, the sand will stay in that thing. And sugar's the same. It doesn't come through the distillation process. So, and rum is exactly the same. So whenever you try rum, it is very dry. You might get some natural sweetness coming from the flavors or a perceived sweetness from it, but that's not actually sugar. So a lot of rums will add a little bit of sugar in, and it can be absolutely delicious. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've had loads of rums where just a little bit of sugar, beautiful, very, very tasty. However, some rums adds a lot of sugar, and that's where it starts to become a bit like, I'm not sure if you can actually taste the rum anymore, or if I'm just tasting the sugar, because sugar's delicious, right? So people are going to try and go, sugary, lovely. And for years, the rum world, again, because we like our smoke and mirrors in the rum world, typically, most rums would say, oh yes, it's a natural sweetness. We don't add anything to it. It's just, you can taste the sugarcane. And then over years, people realized that was bullshit. And they started testing the rum and seeing, there's tons of sugar added to this. And the rum world was just like, oh, yeah, okay.
That's a little secret.
Try to avoid, no, it's the molasses. But yeah.
Again, though, that's part of the lack of rules, or that's just, it's part of the way rum is made in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think it happened for so long, and it's been such almost a custom part of a lot of rum blends for years that I mean, if you go to the EU regulations for rum, it will say you can add a little bit of sugar to round off the the flavors, and it sort of says not to change the rum completely, but just to round it off, and again, when it's done well, it's delicious. Like, I've got nothing against rum with a little bit of sugar. It's when there's a ton in there and they don't necessarily disclose it. That's where it's like, okay. It becomes,
do many of them disclose? I don't.
Very few.
Yeah,
very few.
I don't remember seeing that on any labels.
Yeah, well, so this is an interesting one. Before Black Tot, I used to work with plantation rum, where a lot of our rums would have sugar in as well. And for most countries, and I think the US is included in this, you can't put sugar and then the amount on the label, because then it's seen as a nutritional product. And you're trying to show people that this has nutritional value, which you're not allowed to do for alcohol marketing. So you have to come up with other ways of putting it on. So, for instance, with Plantation now on most of their labels, and they're rolling it out across everything, they'll put dosage and then the amount in grams, because dosage they can get away with. It's something specific. So I think you will start to see some of the better rum companies be more transparent with it and put it on their labeling and try to, if they believe in it, they want to tell people. There's nothing like, they don't want to lie to anyone. It's just, they might not be able to put it on the labels yet. I know even on some of the rums that don't have any sugar in, like some of the very high end ones, they would put, no added sugar or sugar free, and they got told
sugar free.
and they got told to take it off, because it's like, you're not allowed to disclose about these certain things. They had to come up with different ways of saying that on the bottle that wouldn't make it seem like a nutritional thing. So it's not always a straight line as we'd hope it is. But the main thing to do is go to a masterclass. And if you ask them, has this got any sugar in? If you see the fear in the ambassador, then it probably does, or they don't want to talk about it, or they're probably hiding something. If they're very happy to tell you everything about it and their process, then you can probably go, okay, these guys are doing a good job of it. So,
hey, Mitch, for this particular one that we're trying, is this going to be released in like batches, or is there going to be, this is going to stay, you're going to try to get the same release every single time?
It's a good question. Obviously, the normal way to do this would be just to keep it consistent as much as possible. However, again, very much the mentality of our company here with Elixir Distillers is, if we can make it better, we will make it better. And Sukhinder and Ollie are always like, but we could still make that bit a little bit better, or we could improve that little part. So there's whispers that we might still be tweaking little bits of it and trying to outdo ourselves each time with it if we can. It's interesting as well, like just in the 6 months, I started at the beginning of this year of Black Tot, and just in those 6 months you can see the rum sort of sitting together better. It's marrying together better. And whenever you put a blend together before you bottle it, you have this marriage time of how long those rums sit together and how long they have time to integrate the flavors together. And typically you need 2-3 months minimum to sort of get all those flavors sitting right. And it was interesting because this only came out in September last year, so it's very, very, very new. And the rum at the very start, when we were first bottling it, tastes very different to what it tastes like now. It's sort of come together and feels a lot happier together in that marriage, So it's interesting. But yeah, I think if we can, we will keep on outdoing ourselves with it. But you'll also see a lot of new blends and a lot of different styles coming out over there.
This may be kind of nerdy, but how is it vatted together? How are these 4 rums vatted together?
You're such a nerd.
I am. Sorry.
It was the SpaceX thing today. It's just easy to keep.
No, absolutely. So as I say, currently it's all done in Amsterdam for us. So we give the spec of the components that we want put together. That's sent. So in Amsterdam with VA Shear, you've got they have a little office where they do all their like putting together in their little labs and stuff like that. But then about an hour outside, you've got a giant warehouse blending vats there, and everything's put together. So we try whenever we're going to have something put together or blended, we'll ask obviously to have it put together for as long as possible before bottling, because we know it's going to be better the longer those rums have time to sit together and integrate. So at the moment everything is done over there, but as I say, with now us having our individual components available and our own casks here, we're hoping to I'm hoping they'll let us build some more interesting blending vats over here, sort of almost reminiscent of the old Navy rum style, because the Navy rum vats were fascinating back in the day. You know, they used to bring all these rums from around the world back to London. And what they did is they built these 3 giant wooden blending vats with the pipe about a third of the way up, so that when these rums got blended together, it was all open top. So you'd have about 10% angel share, even in London. You know, there was a huge amount of angel share evaporating off. And with the pipe the third of the way up, it always meant that there was sort of a base rum that continued on in the blend. So no matter what you added to it, there was always parts of the previous blends still in there.
It's like a Solera.
Solera,
yeah, pretty much, almost like a Solera vat system is a term that often gets used with it. And this blend for the Navy was a continuous blend they had going from the early 1800s to about 1950, 1960. So for 150 years, they just continuously blended these vats together. And it would have been one of the world's longest going. You know, it's absolutely incredible what they did there. So you know, it's going to take us a while to obviously build up a 150-year blending system, but it would be fun if we could start. You know, so.
Sure.
Is Ollie the one that makes the final decision on the final product and the different does all the tastings?
It's pretty collaborative, I'd say. You know, essentially, Ollie will always make what he wants or what he likes to taste, and again, you know, he's very much a whiskey lover. So as is Sukhinder. So very much, if you're a whiskey drinker and you're trying Black Tot, chances are you'll probably like it, because they made it very much for their palate and their style, which makes it very interesting for me as a rum drinker, because this is very different to most blends I've tried. It doesn't really sit in the normal categories of rum that I would think of. You know, I would almost struggle to put it in a pigeonhole, which normally with rum is quite easy to kind of do. So Ollie will generally make it for whatever he likes the taste of, and then him and Sukhinder will often work on it and sort of bounce it back and forth. And then I'll come in and I'll say, I want to make a daiquiri rum, and then we'll do something. Try and convince them to do something like that.
So this is, I think Sam asked about the 46.2 and why. Could we see, or would you think that we'd see something above 50% at some point, a blend that's higher proof?
You will indeed, yeah. So in fact, you'll see some this year. We are going to be, so this year is the 50th anniversary of Black Tot Day, which for anyone who doesn't know at home, I guess just to give you some background on that, the British Royal Navy used to give out a daily tot of rum. So you'd get a little tot of this twice a day of your rum ration, watered down as your Navy grog. And they gave that out from 1731, and they did it for 239 years up until 1970. And then they stopped it because in 1958, we invented nuclear submarines. And
what could go wrong?
I don't know if you've ever had a few rums and seen a big red button, but it's like,
why not? Push it.
What could happen?
Things tend to go boom here.
It's very exciting. I live my life that way. But no. So we invented nuclear submarines in 1958. For 12 years, we argued about whether or not we should still give out rum to the sailors. And for 12 years, we said yes, absolutely. And there was a big debate in Parliament about it. And eventually they said, no, okay, we're going to kill off this rum ration. And so the 31st of July, 1970 was called Black Tot Day. And they had a funeral for the rum. It's like they lost a serious crew member. And this year is the 50th anniversary of that day.
It's funny.
So we're bringing out a 50th anniversary blend this year. That will be bottled at Navy Proof. So Navy Proof was 54.5% ABV, or 109 proof, I guess, over there. So that will be coming out probably around September this year. We were hoping to have it out sooner, but as you may have noticed, pandemic's really slowed down.
Everything.
This thing's been happening. So that's really slowed things down. So around September, October time, have a look out for it. We'll be releasing our 50th anniversary blend, and it is. When I saw this blend, like for me as a rum geek, it was just. It's one of the geekiest rum blends you've ever seen. If you just imagine all of the geekiest rums and you want to put in a bottle, this is it. Like, I don't even know how this has happened. So it should be a pretty fun one.
Go back to transparency a bit. You gave us the breakdown of the 4 styles that are in this. Yeah. Is there any future in actually saying which rum distillery all those are from in the future, kind of like Compass Box?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something I want to do. Ideally, I'd like to put it on the label straight away. I think it's just one of those things we just need to make sure we've got. We need to make sure each distillery has tried the finished product so that they're happy to put their name to it. Because there have been instances in the past where a distillery sold a rum. Someone's put it into a bottle and they've done something with it that the distillery hated, or didn't agree with or didn't like the finished product. And so we kind of need to make sure we go to each one in person, hopefully, take them the rum, make sure they're happy with it, and then hopefully they'll allow us to put their names on. But I'm pretty sure I can say, or if not, I'm just going to say. So you've got the Jamaican rum is Long Pond. We've got the Barbados rum, Bajan rum is Foursquare. And then the Guyanese rum, there's only one distillery in Guyana, so that one's pretty easy. It's the Diamond Distillery, which is part of, if you've heard of DDL or Diamond, they're the same place. So all of the Guyanese distilleries over years got conglomerated into one, and everything comes from that one distillery now. So,
nice.
But ideally, as soon as we can put it on the label, if we're allowed to put it on the label, we will. Otherwise, I'll just keep telling everyone. So.
I'm working through this little bottle, by the way.
Hopefully they like it though. Hopefully they enjoy it, and you'll see, again, on our 50th anniversary bottling, I know we've got permission, as far as I'm aware, to put all the distillery names on there. So you'll see this full breakdown will go on the label, and you'll see everything actually on there, which is pretty exciting. I don't think I've ever seen that on a rum blend before.
So is this out everywhere? Where is it available? In all of Europe, or just the States, or
for this guy?
Yeah.
The Finest Caribbean. Yeah, so this is it's just recently joined the States. So I know Impex, our importers there, have brought it in, and it's slowly sort of making its way to all the different places over there. It's in a few countries in Europe now as well, and I think we might just have our first bottles popping up in Asia and Australia in the next couple of months. So it's slowly but surely starting to find its way around and get out there. And obviously, as soon as we can start traveling again, I'll be over there to.
So you're a former bartender, right?
Yeah. So
have you tried this in any cocktails?
Absolutely, yeah. So my first test whenever I get a rum is to put it in a daiquiri and see what it does.
We talked about that earlier, yeah.
I'm going to share the screen here.
Daiquiri is obviously the world's best cocktail, so it's a good place to start. It's interesting because here we go.
Nice.
It's classically with the daiquiri, obviously you'd use a much lighter style rum. Usually, this rum almost overpowers it slightly, and it took me a little while to get the balance right. I think if you walk in as a bartender and you just make a standard daiquiri with Black Tot, you'll find the rum kind of, it throws it out too much. The rum's a bit bigger than what we'd normally play with for this. But if you just taste it, you just adjust your specs slightly and just balance it out with your citrus well, then it's fine. It works really well. It makes a delicious little Black Tot daiquiri. It works especially well in a lot of the boozy drinks. Like if you think about like a rum old fashioned or a rum Negroni, a right hand, anything booze forward, this rum just kicks through it, does very well. So they're calling the Negroni variation the right hand? The right hand, yeah. So the right hand is basically like a Boulevardier. So you normally have, I don't know if we've got it in there. Yeah. So the website needs a bit of updating. I apologize. Typically, you have bunches of chocolate bitters in a right hand. And then instead of equal parts like a Negroni, so normally 30-30, with a Boulevardier style or a right hand, you'd have 40-20-20. With the main booze component being the 40, and then the Campari and vermouth being 20-20.
I guess so that the vermouth and the Campari don't overpower the rum?
In this case, not really, because the rum is so big, it more kicks through. But I think it's just the reason why I love a Boulevardier, say, or right hand. So Boulevardier would just make with obviously bourbon or whiskey in there. But yeah, I don't know, like gin blends better in terms of it being a little bit more lighter in flavor, and so the 30-30 actually works better as an equal split. But as soon as you start putting whiskey or rum into the mix, it just tastes better when there's more whiskey or rum in it. Like anything, I guess. It's just,
we're not opposed to that.
It's just better.
Here's your old fashioned.
Hello.
That's mine. So with the old fashioned, the only real tip I'd change there, and I'd give this tip to anyone who likes old fashions. When you add your sugar, always use a brown sugar. Always use the Demerara sugar. Don't use white sugar. White sugar is the worst possible sugar in the world. It's just like, it's bland. It doesn't have much flavor to it. It's not very rich. And whether it's a whiskey old fashioned or a rum old fashioned, using a brown sugar or Demerara sugar, it just works better with the spirit. It gives you a much richer flavor. It just sits better. And you don't get that same sickly sweetness you can sometimes get with an old fashioned if someone's added too much sugar. It just works better. So use a Demerara sugar syrup. You just mix 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, stir it, and then you can add a spoonful in your old fashioned, and the sugar syrup will keep in your fridge for a month. So it's a good quarantine ingredient.
My wife spent last weekend making like 6 kinds of simple syrups, all with Demerara. She made something tonight, some tiki cocktail, and with a vanilla and simple syrup that she made last week.
No, it's there's so many. It's one of these crazy. I was talking to a friend of mine who's she loves cooking. She's got a real her partner's a chef, and she was like, "Oh, I've got all these different types of salt, and I only use the finest salt when I cook, and make sure I use this sea salt for this or this for that." And I was like, "Yeah," and then why wouldn't you do the same with sugar? Why would you just use the cheapest, nastiest sugar? Especially if it's a cocktail where you've only got 3 ingredients, and if the booze is good, the bitters is good, and then the only ingredient that can fuck it up is your sugar, and you use the cheapest thing imaginable, it's like, well, let's
which is probably what a lot of bars do anyway, right?
Well, it's interesting for me. So the first bar I ever worked in was a bar in London called Trailer Happiness, which is one of the world's famous rum bars. It's amazing. If you come over to London, make sure you come to Trailer. And they would always have, different sugars. You'd have your dark sugar, your white sugar. You'd have different sweeteners for different cocktails, because it's so understood in a good rum bar that you need those different flavor profiles depending on what you're making. But yeah, typically most cocktail bars will just have a standard
Simple
white
syrup.
sugar syrup, which is weird. I don't get it. Yeah, it's strange. I hope that's one of those things that we change. You know. But,
My wife, her Bible is the Smuggler's Cove book.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Such a good book. Yeah. Martin, Kate, and Rebecca wrote such a wonderful book there. It's
a great book.
Yeah, if you're looking to make some tiki cocktails at home, that's just one of the best references I'd say out there. It's really good.
I agree. This has grown on me. How would you boys?
Just by the way, earlier in the evening, Mike bottled up a couple of different rums just to kind of, get a feel for what's in these.
Yeah.
And he gave me this one, Bamboo from Barbados.
Right. Yeah.
So this is it's weird. I just poured it, and for some reason I smelled Play-Doh.
That's funny. Does Mitch know what that is? They have Play-Doh.
It's like a moldy clay.
Yeah, so Bamboo is a weird one. Bamboo is one that's made with a lot of extra sugar and other things added to it, as far as I'm aware. And I think it's only 35.
It's 35.
35. That's 35.
So technically you can't put rum on the bottle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's below, I think 37.5 is the base level for most countries. So yeah, 35 technically, it's not. It can't be called a rum officially.
Is this like a liqueur, like a rum liqueur?
But yeah, basically, I'd
Legendario.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Cuba.
That said, I'm told I haven't tried it yet, but apparently Bamboo do a Bamboo XO, which is I believe it's from Panama. And as far as I'm aware, it's a higher ABV, and that one is more their proper rum offering, I'm told. But I haven't tried it yet. I don't know for sure. But yeah, so Bamboo again. People love sweet stuff, so people are gonna get into it. I think there's a rapper representing it, which is always a good sign.
I have no idea.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it will do fine because people love sugar, and this one of those things. There's a big debate in the rum world which goes on all the time. It's one of the most boring rum debates ever. But no, it's the argument is, if people try a sugared rum, they will never discover the wonders of drier rums or fuller flavored rums or other things. And it's like, I don't know if that's true. Like the first rum I ever tried was Sailor Jerry. It wasn't great, but I still got here.
Sure. It's your journey.
I'm pretty sure the first whiskey I ever tried was Bell's, and I have drunk many fine whiskeys since, and discovered a wonderful world of whiskey and other spirits since. It's like, and you speak to most people, and most people will start with a sweeter style rum, and because most of what's available out there and most of what you'll try will have that. I don't know necessarily in whiskey or in rum or in any spirit, if you don't start off with the absolute best, that you won't get there eventually. I think if you're passionate, if you're interested, if you ask these questions and you want to find out more, you will over time, you'll discover all the wonderful things that rum and all the booze has to offer. But yeah, so I don't know necessarily whether I'd knock it if they want to spend millions on marketing, getting people to drink rum, and then they discover better rums off the back of that. Amazing, great. Why not? So
well, it feels like rum is having its moment right now, right? And like whiskey 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now it's rum's turn. So there is a jump up in people's curiosity, need to try something that's not Bacardi or Crucian or whatever the populace is drinking the most of. And so you see, who heard of Foursquare 5 years ago?
Yeah.
No one, right?
Yeah.
And I think, right, a year ago. I think that we're at that point with rum. And especially I don't want to say nerdy, but people that are into cocktails, people that want better drinks, they're more interested in higher quality spirits. And rum's just no different.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think the experience of the cocktails the same way. You go out and if you're going to kill yourself to find the right bitters,
Right.
why wouldn't you look for the better rum or a different rum or
Yeah.
see what happens when I try different rums with different bitters and what happens with a cocktail?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a trend we're seeing across all things. Like you go to any good cocktail bar now and you'll see these incredible selections of different spirits. And for years it was the case that you'd go to most of these bars and they'd have, 100, 200 amazing whiskeys, probably 50 gins, 10 vodkas, and then it would normally be like 5 shitty rums in the corner, which was always surprising to me. It's like,
Captain Morgan, a banana rum, and maybe
yeah, it's like I always thought it was weird because it's like if you're only going to have 5 rums, surely you'd pick the 5 best rums that money can buy. But that never seemed to be the case. It's like, no, we get the 5 worst rums that money can buy. And they're like, it's so weird. Everyone prefers drinking these 200 whiskeys. It's like, well, yeah, try getting some good rums in. But now more and more you're starting to see these rum selections getting better and better and better and starting to take up more and more of the shelf space at the bar. And no, I think it is. I think it's there's such a wonderful, diverse range of rum out there. If you try a rum from Martinique, it's going to be completely different to Barbados, completely different to Jamaica, completely different to Guatemala and Guyana and all these places. And really, it just comes down to people understanding each individual island, each individual style, just as you would with whiskey, just as you would with something else, appreciating those individual places. Once you appreciate it, once you see all the different styles out there, I think it becomes a very exciting journey to go on, and you go, Barbados is my favorite. It's like, cool. Right. Well, there's 4 distilleries on Barbados. Let's try all the different ones from Barbados, see which one is your favorite. And now you've got that in your tool belt, So.
I mean, this is all kind of an extension of the foodie culture too, though.
Totally.
20, 25 years ago, everything was kind of boring. Now everything's gotten exciting and interesting, and people are pulling from all over the world. And it's the same thing with spirits. And I think it's all kind of coincided.
Yep.
The restaurant boom, which hopefully after all this is over, will start back up again. So, you go out, you eat, you want to drink. At least I do.
I think back to the rum cocktail conversation, most rum cocktails, tiki cocktails, there's a lot of components. And I think for a bar, it doesn't matter. In the old days, and for dive bars maybe, they just don't care. It's all versions of whatever they are. It's cola, not Coca-Cola. And it's rum, not whatever, plantation or whatever is cheap. But now, like you said, we're at a different point. It's a foodie culture. We want all of the components to be interesting. We don't want the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. Yeah. We want something really good, and we want to know where they came from. I think it's a really we've all elevated the components by our foodiness.
Absolutely, and I think it's depending on how much you care about where all your food and your stuff comes from. Like so, I care a lot about sugar, right? Because I'm in the rum world, So when I buy sugar, I'm looking at the sugar packet, going, where does the sugar come from? Is it coming from sugar cane? Because you can get cheap sugar made from sugar beets and little things like that, and that is the majority of sugar out there will be sugar beet sugar. So I always want to get sugarcane sugar. I always want to see where it's from, where it's supporting, where it's coming from. And do you know where the sugar in your cupboard comes from? Everyone's got it. Where is it? The salt is a good example. Everyone's like, I use this specific salt, or you don't care at all. It really depends,
Right.
When you buy your meat or your vegetables, do you know which farm or butcher or where is that food coming from? And I think as we become more aware and we become more interested in that process, as you say, with food, with our whiskey, with all our spirits, if we can do that with rum as well, people will naturally want to ask these questions. They'll naturally want to ask more of the stuff. And instead of having brands giving very superficial kind of it's a secret blend, they might actually tell us, you know, it's they might say, well, actually, this is how we make it, and this is what we put in it, and this is why it tastes the way it does, you know. So it's hopefully, yeah, it is the start of a bigger rum revolution, if you like.
Funny thing about sugar, I always thought it was white. I had no idea what sugar was. No clue, like probably most people. And I met my wife, and 27 years ago, wife to be, and her dad was a engineer at a sugar beet factory in Northern California, a company called Spreckles. And I had no idea the sugar come from sugar beets. That's a thing. Yeah. I had no idea. And now we're talking about all kinds of wacky sugars. Yeah. And ultimately, it's all sugar. It's like salt is all salt. But there's more to it than just at the microscopic level.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, and this is the thing. It's like anything in its top line, you know, whiskey is all whiskey is whiskey. Sure. All rum is rum. But once we get into those more interesting nuances with it, hopefully it becomes a really fascinating thing. And, you know, it's one of the things we can do again, you know, it's like really get into why does Jamaican rum taste funky as opposed to Barbados rum? Why does this do this? You know, asking those why questions and really getting into it. That's when it starts to get really fascinating and interesting. So
yep. This has been great. This is great, Mitch.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Join us.
Should we let Mitch get some sleep?
Yes, Sam is watching. Mr. Filmus is.
He's worried about your sleep.
It's 4 a.m.
Kind of got my roll on now. I mean, like.
He's kind of sleeping in.
I'm not.
See, that's what I told him. I said you got your second wind.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm up now. Let's do it.
Oh, let's go.
What else do you want to know about rum?
One of the comments just popped that hummingbirds they won't deal with beet sugar. They'll only go with cane sugar. How about that?
That's interesting. So there are differences, right?
They know more than we do.
And they have different taste buds.
Yeah. I love that you have hummingbirds. I've never.
They're all over here in California.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. But yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? You know, certain things you leave out and nature just knows inherently this is not good. This is so far from its natural product, you know. It's it's fascinating. So yeah. Oh, we should do more rum sessions. This is good.
Is the tiki culture big in the UK?
I think like anywhere, it's not necessarily the first and foremost thing, and it's probably nowhere near as big as it would be in the States, say. But certainly you've got, you know, bars like Trailer Happiness, as say one of the world's most famous rum bars in Notting Hill in London. We've got a couple of, or certainly at least one still left of your Trader Vic's sort of franchises over here as well. There's a couple of other rum bars sort of dotted around the country. I've actually been, because I've been living in Australia for the last 5 years, I'm sort of a little out of touch. I'm looking forward to actually being able to travel again to go and visit all the bars that have opened up here in the last 5 years. So, but it's interesting, you know, there's you've got some tiki bars, you've got some rum bars. There is a sort of difference starting to happen. You know, I think we're becoming there's conversations now happening about how tiki might not be, you know, its whole thing was cultural appropriation. Is it better to now move towards more tropical style or rum style? So, you know, hopefully there's a way we can do that while still keeping the fun side of what tiki bars represented and that escapism, because it's played such an important part of rum culture and cocktail culture that it would be a shame to lose that fun aspect of it. Hopefully we'll never become quite like, you know, whiskey bars, just, you know, waistcoats and suspenders and everything's too serious, because that's the fun thing about rum, you know. It's like, I always remember coming into trailer where I used to work, you'd have this, the roof would be this 8-meter copper roof above the bar, and you know, you'd have 300 rums on the back bar and the room's just pumping. They'd always have a great DJ on. But if ever there was a time where, you know, say the room wasn't dancing enough or it wasn't pumping, to fix this, the bartender would grab a bottle of Ray and Nephew, give themselves a layback, pour some on their hand, light their hand on fire.
Hey now.
Dear God.
And then breathe out over this copper roof, this 8-meter fireball of Ray and Nephew.
Awesome.
Awesome. The rum would be hitting the copper and it's going green and blue, and everyone looks around. It's like, what the hell is going on? And it's like,
it's our kind of party.
It's a fireball underground in West London, and it's, you know, it was definitely illegal.
Oh, really?
But you never see that in a whiskey bar, do you? You never see that in any bar.
No.
You know, it's so standard in a rum bar. It's like, let's just set stuff on fire because
that's tiki bars, yeah.
Here's your drink. It's on fire. Yeah. Oh, it's better now. You know,
right. That's right. That's
generally fire is banned. That's
yes.
Not in tiki bars though.
It might be fun.
Exactly right. You just need to like control. Like, yeah, I feel like, you know, tiki and rum bartenders, they're just little pyromaniacs who are like somehow allowed to do it because it's rum. You know, it's
right.
Like, okay.
So we are, the three of us are whiskey guys, right? And we've been to a lot of whiskey festivals, whiskey shows. I know there's a rum show world. I know there's a big rum show in the Bay Area, Northern California. Do you guys plan to, when we're past COVID, hit the rum show festivals too?
For us?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Honestly, if we can even, if there's one bottle of rum there, we'll turn up. Like, let's go. Yeah, no, for sure. We want to, and we encourage all of you. Let's do more rum shows. Let's do more stuff and that. So, and certainly as soon as we can come over to the States, I know myself and Chanel, who I work with, who will be looking after the States. Yeah, we'll be coming over and doing as many shows, as many tastings, as many masterclasses as possible. So you don't have to just listen to us talk about it. You can actually drink it with us, which makes
we're drinking it, so that's good.
Much better.
You know, we've seen over the years, in our 10 years of doing this stuff at whiskey shows, this little creeping thing that keeps happening. There's gin showing up at these shows. There's rum showing up at these shows. So the whiskey festival is like this spirits festival. Yeah. It's interesting watching that. The tentacles grow.
Well, we found the same. It was actually really interesting in Australia. They started doing that about 2-3 years ago. And we were one of the first rums to sort of come on as one of their stands there. This was back when I was with Plantation still. And there was us, and there was like 1 or 2 other rums at the time. And at the end of the day, we'd be like, oh, how did the rum go? You know, because we know they're all whiskey drinkers and they're all super serious and everything. And they're like, oh, the top 3 selling things were rum today. And I was like, oh, really? And they were like, well, yeah, because they've just tried 50 whiskeys and then they try the one rum and they go, wow, that's so different. It tastes so good. It's like a complete change of palate for them. Yep. And they all just go straight over and buy a bottle of rum, you know, and it's very interesting to see how it breaks up. And I think once people realize there are good quality rums out there as well, it's not just spiced rum, or it's not just, as you say, the bottom of the barrel stuff. They try it and they go, oh, I didn't know rum could even taste like that, you know, because quite possibly the last rum they had was when they had a rum and coke sometime when they were 15, and that was it, you know?
I gotta say that one of my favorite casks.
When they got a good bottle of mango rum on a trip.
Ooh, cruising, Virgin Islands. I mean,
just those. If you saw those colors in nature, you would immediately just think, "Oh, this is poisonous." Like,
but on vacation, sure.
Seems fine, yeah.
I fell in love with cruising when I was down there 25 years ago in Tortola. Yeah. And I thought there was one of them.
This bottle has this much out of it, and it's been like this for years. For the good rum, that goes.
That's funny.
It's yeah. I mean, that I think if I was to give anyone some advice, if you're looking to get into the rum world and move over from whiskey, like, just as I'm guessing all of you guys have a preference on your style of whiskey. You know, you probably have an area or a region or a style or a distillery where you go, this is my this is my favorite. I will try all whiskeys, but this is my preferred style. You need to start doing the same with your rums. So when you go to your bars, or if you've got, Mike, I see you've got a few rums lined up on the back there, you want to know inherently, okay, which island, which country is this coming from? Okay, this is Guyanese, right? What does Guyanese rum taste like? What does Venezuelan rum taste like? What does Barbados rum taste like? Find your perfect one, find your perfect bowl of porridge, your Goldilocks rum, Once you know the island and the style, then you can start to look up, okay, tell me everything about Barbados rum. Who are the distilleries there? Tell me all about Jamaican rum, and you'll find, Jamaican rum has almost two distinct styles in that you've got the lighter styles from 3 distilleries that don't use dunder or heavy ferments the way that the others do. And then you've got your Hampton, Long Pond, Clarendon, which use your dunder and your muck, and they just want to make the funkiest rum possible. You guys were sort of like talking about funk levels, like they want to make the James Brown of rums. Do you know what I mean? They want their stuff funky as shit, and they want
George Clinton of rum,
jumping out the class. Yeah, exactly. It's so depending on your style, your flavor preference, you might love Jamaican rum, or you might love funky Jamaican rum or light style Jamaican rum. And you've got to do that initial research. You've got to try some stuff out. Be prepared to hate some. Be prepared to love some. And then once you find a couple of regions or one region where you're just like, yes, I think this is my style, drink all the ones you can from that area. Find all the different types, and yeah, you'll start to build up. It will start to become a less scary, obscure world, and you'll be like, I at least know this region very well, and then maybe I'll start finding out some other ones after that.
It was nice pre-COVID. Many better bars were starting to have rum lists, whereas we had a whiskey list that's like this encyclopedia in the really nice bars, right? And the rum would be in the back, and it'd be like 3 things. But you're seeing that, or we were seeing that, where the better bars at least had a very getting longer lists of rums, especially at tiki bars. So more options,
right? I mean, someone has to import it, and if there's no market for it,
well, but I think that culture is changing.
It's growing.
It's growing. Yep.
Like whiskey or anything else. I mean, gin. It was 5 gins before. Now you
That's right.
100 different gins.
Or Irish whiskey, same thing.
Right, same thing.
Okay.
There was Jameson, Bushmills,
and that's it.
And then now it's exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's changed where it was a $4 well drink, and now it's an $18 cocktail.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to pay $18 for that lousy well rum.
No.
I don't want that. Where I got to get more. Yeah.
I was at a tiki bar in Denver at Christmas time, and with my family, and I was stunned that they had, I don't know, a dozen different Foursquares amongst a million other rums. I was ecstatic. Unfortunately, I was driving at night, so I couldn't. But it was great.
A container?
Well, I had a couple, but it was great seeing that in Denver. Who knew?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, where are you guys all based? Which states are you in?
Los Angeles.
Yeah, Mike and I are in New Jersey, so we're right outside of Philadelphia.
Nice.
So we've got 3 time zones. It's pretty good.
Yeah, wicked. It's I know in LA there's a few great rum spots like the Spare Room and the Roosevelt has some awesome rum that's run by Van Gogh there, which is amazing. The Tonga Hut as well.
Up in the valley, yeah.
You said that's awesome.
A lot of Foursquares, as I recall, when I was there.
Yeah, no, they're Sid in LA is a good friend. He's a massive rum lover there, so he's probably got a few things.
Did I see that you worked at Cole's?
I did. Yeah. Cole's Red Bar in LA. Yeah. I was very much under the table. I wasn't meant to be working in the States. I was very, very lucky. They sort of like helped take me on. It was great because at that time I was just a barback. I knew basically nothing, but because I'd come over from London, they thought, oh, you know, he knows what he's doing, and had no idea what I was doing. So that's where I learned how to make a proper old fashioned, was at Coles, and because you'd just be making like 100 old fashions every day, and it was that was a good education in how to.
Did you like the French dip?
So you're saying it's true?
Amazing.
It's true what they say. If you have a British accent, you could pretty much get away with anything.
I mean, I definitely was like leaning heavily on that at the time.
I mean, if you take what's it, David Attenborough, he does the nature documentaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
You take David Attenborough out and you put some American guy in there. It's just not the same.
Nobody watches.
No,
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
That has Marlon Perkins. And remember when you were here in LA and I took you to Philippe's?
Which one
for the French dip?
Oh yeah, that was
so
fun.
Philippe's and Coles battle.
That was after
They had this endless battle for 100 years of who invented the French dip sandwich.
It wasn't the French?
It was not the French. It was either Coles or Philippe's.
It's not the French.
And in the back of Coles, there's a speakeasy, which was started by I can't remember his name, from the Varnish in New York City. Passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, Sasha Petresky?
Sasha, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the Varnish bar in the back of Coles, which is awesome.
We have a friend who is a frequent guest of all the bars. The Minty, she's a foodie here in LA. A friend of Chanel's.
Oh, cool.
She goes. She's very popular. I actually was there with her at Coles. Yeah, it's a great place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's very good place. Beautiful bar, and such an amazing bar with so much history. It's like the oldest licensed bar in LA. Still,
it's one of the oldest. Yeah.
Closed during Prohibition and then reopened straight after.
Yeah. And there's also the Golden Gopher, which is near $7 Grand downtown, which is also that's the one that I think they still have a license. Well, pre-COVID again, where they could actually sell bottles out the door, which no one else could. Huh. They were the last ones with that license.
Wow.
Now I think everyone can.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that true in London? Are bars allowed to now post-COVID or during COVID? Are you allowed to sell out the door?
It's they are starting to introduce some things. There's certainly a couple of bars that are starting doing it. It's weird. I haven't seen as much of it happening in London as I have everywhere else in the world. But it is starting to happen. You are starting to see different ways. They're finding the loopholes to be able to do it. You know?
Well, here it's been done in various states to keep bars running so that they had some kind of income. And so these guys could get rid of their inventory.
Over on the East Coast, it was bottles of wine and bottles of beer. And then they shifted to cocktails if you could put a lid on the container. Right. So you're not open container anywhere. As long as you can cover it up, put it in the car, you can carry out cocktails, which is, it's keeping the bars afloat.
And I think LA, it's if they had food service, so you could pair it with, you had to have food and alcohol going out the door. You could do it.
Yeah.
It was Jack Rose was selling off their whiskey inventory. Yeah. Like $800,000 of whatever their value of their whiskey.
A couple bottles of that $1,000 rum would have gone,
That's right. Well, they're selling Pappy and all kinds of
stuff for a couple of weeks.
That's right. What's the most expensive rum you've ever seen? What's the Pappy Van Winkle of rums?
The most expensive rum I've ever seen in play was.
Well, it's way more than that. More than $1,000, I'm sure, right? Something.
Yeah. So there was a few years ago they discovered a couple of cases worth of Ray and Nephew 17-year-old, which was not. It basically wasn't a standard release of Ray and Nephew. They used to have a 15-year-old, and then I believe it was during the war or a certain time they had some extra casks aging for too long, and they had some 17-year-olds. So it was a very, very small release. But the Ray Nephew 17-year-old was the original rum that Trader Vic used in his Mai Tai in 1944.
Wow.
So they used the Ray Nephew 17 for the Mai Tai originally. That was the first Mai Tai rum. Like everyone argues about what goes in a Mai Tai. It was Ray Nephew 17. The Mai Tai was so popular throughout the Trader Vic chain of restaurants that they basically drank all the Ray Nephew 17. Then they switched it for the 15, and then later it became like a Jamaican Martinique blend that they put in there. Molasses, not agricole. And years and years went by, and then about 10 years ago or so, they found, I think it was about a dozen bottles of Ray Nephew 17, just with a label on at the office, been marked around, and like hidden away. And so they gifted some of them to certain bartenders around the world. So one of them came to Trailer Happiness, to a good friend of mine, Paul McFadden there. They gave different bottles to different legends around the world in the rum world. And then the other case they auctioned off. So my friend Paul, I believe it was his 30th birthday the next week. So he saved this bottle of rum for a week. And then they drank it all on the birthday, and they had laybacks with it, and it was amazing. And it was, yeah, great. We've had the original Mai Tai rum, delicious, you know. And then a week later, the other case of rum went up for auction at, I think it was Sotheby's or Christie's here in London, and it went for £40,000 a bottle. It was the most.
There you go, Ange. There you go.
Hope you had a happy birthday.
Never happened.
What's that? 60 grand?
And I just remember thinking like, and I asked Paul, I was like, I mean, you must have had a pretty big hangover the next day, but imagine then knowing you drank £40,000.
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing. Like, what a great way to celebrate my birthday.
It's not for keeping, it's for drinking.
That's right.
It's just brilliant. It was like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
like, rum's not for looking at on a shelf. Like,
Nope.
drink it. Like,
That's right. Wow, that's great.
So yeah, that's the most expensive rum I've ever seen. Every now and then you'll see like you've got Jeff Berry and Latitude 29 in New Orleans, and Martin Cate, I believe, still has his bottle. I think he was
Oh, really?
smart, kept it over. So if you get Smuggler's Cove in San Fran, you'll be able to see. Maybe see it if he has it out, but certainly ask him about it. He's got an incredible collection of rum there, so
Yeah.
very good person to ask.
We've got a post coming out on Monday, right? Ange on
Tiki
Oasis, which was it's a big tiki festival.
Yeah, right.
That I
Yeah.
went to last year with my wife, and luckily I got to meet Martin and Rebecca and Jeff, and good, fun people, nice people.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah. Such nice guys.
Really good. Well, should we let Mitch get some sleep?
Oh, absolutely not.
No, let him keep drinking with us.
No.
Sleep is overrated. We'll sleep on the
It
bed.
is. Tomorrow's Sunday, right?
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
It's already Sunday.
It's Sunday for him.
it's
Tomorrow's Monday for him.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
Hey, sunshine.
That's amazing.
It's already morning.
Sunrise.
So are you doing a lot? I know you did one with me and LA Scotch Club Zoom event. Are you doing those all over? Are you still doing those?
Yeah, so well, I guess as often as you guys will have me over there, you know, it's I guess this is probably the time where it hits home the most about the travel, because normally I would get to come over and do these in person with you all. It'd be much more fun. So whereas now it's like, oh yeah, what time is it? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do it then. You know,
It's weird, isn't it? It's so strange.
I much prefer getting on a plane, coming to see you guys in person.
It's interesting how this whole marketing thing has changed. It's amazing how the whole spirits world has had to remake its marketing model with this whole thing.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, it's so tough. Like, obviously, I mean, for me, the bartender side is such a big part of it, because I did that for longer than before being with brands or anything like that, and seeing the bars have what they're having to do to adapt and to overcome this so that we actually have bars and restaurants to come back to afterwards. It's like, it's stunning. And like, you know, I hope after all of this is over, everyone goes out and like, don't need to tell Americans to tip, but the rest of the world, like go there and just like spend hard and tip. If you're in a position to do so, just go and support your favorite place to keep it open, you know, because it's really scary to think that some of our favorite spots might not be able to recover, you know. And it's
have the pubs started opening in the UK?
No, we're still probably a month or two away. They're talking about opening beer gardens and trying to do stuff outside, but it's still a little way away. So it's
restaurants in the LA County, Los Angeles County opened last night, or could open last night. And but from what I hear, a couple of reports in the papers this morning where everyone's a little bit scared to go, and it's a little eerie to go because there's no one there. It's you know, like you and 20 empty tables. It's not the same. Well, and your servers have masks on, and they've got gloves on, and you've got masks on, and it's not what you expect going to a restaurant.
It's going to take a long while, I think, before we're anywhere close to it. So
and pubs too. I can't imagine going to a pub with social distancing. You know, we go to pubs to for social thing, for anti-distancing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird.
Here in New Jersey, there you can go to about 25% of your capacity.
Yeah.
What's the point of going? There's nobody there. I might as well just do
an empty bar.
out. Yeah, I'll do carry out.
Yeah.
No, hopefully we'll be doing it all again soon properly. We'll be hugging and high-fiving, and
as we mentioned last week, there's about 5 events we've missed so far, probably because of this.
There's what? Say it again.
Like 4 or 5 events that have been canceled in the last 3 months that we would have probably attended.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, all the whiskey events are canceled, and
and that's just personal interest, the stuff we would have gone to. Not all the other stuff.
There's trade shows of all kinds that are not happening. Yeah.
Nope.
Or they're going virtual.
Yep.
I find that this bottle is not the right size.
It's
just not the right size.
So what you should have done is got one of these.
You need to you need to upgrade it.
You need to upgrade.
Very nice.
I need the big bottle.
You need the bigger bottle. Yeah.
We've gone for really about 1 hour and 30 right now, so I'm going to take my last bit, finish it off.
I really like the bottle too, by the way.
Do we want some final thoughts on this, boys?
Beautiful, yeah. Thank you.
So what do we think?
I like it. It's grown on me.
I like it.
And like I said, it's very easy drinking. It's almost like an everyday drink of rum.
Yeah.
But it also kind of piques your curiosity for the Barbados rum, the funky Jamaican rum, and all the others.
This is what we call a gateway. This is gateway rum.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think tomorrow night I'm making cocktails with it.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
going with the daiquiri.
There's a great little toast which I'd love to share with you before if we're on our last drops of rum now.
Yeah.
So this was a toast that was taught to me by the guy who taught me how to bartend. I always think it's so good for a little drop of rum. So I'll say the first line. You repeat after me, but you have to do the arm movement.
With work.
Okay? Very important. Okay, this is the test, right? So there are tall ships.
There are tall ships.
Come on. All right, you've got to do this you were the Navy crew right now. You'd be
Okay.
Right? Gotta put some love into this.
So the fate of free world is in our hands?
Again.
So there are tall ships.
There are tall ships.
And there are small ships.
And there are small ships.
And there are ships that sail the sea.
And there are ships that sail the sea.
But the best ships are friendships.
Our friendships.
So here's to you and me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Sláinte. Or whatever you say in Barbados.
That's just really, really easy drinking. Really good.
It's great. It's really good. 46.2. It still tastes hotter than that.
Yeah.
Should we let this poor guy get some sleep?
We should. We'll
Thanks again for joining us. Really,
thanks, Mitch. This was great.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and yeah, can't wait to come over and do this all again in person. So
Excellent.
It'll be great.
Hi to Chanel.
Yes, wonderful. All right, thank you so much, guys. Have a
Cheers.
lovely night.
Cheers.
See you soon.